Hey, what's up guys? This is Goji Berry Gaming, and today we're going to be looking at the build for Vollen. And specifically, we're going to be looking at the build that I used to beat one of the bosses on Chaos 5. And so, let's jump into it real quick. So Vollen's a really tanky player, and I have to say, opinion-wise, Vollen is the least viable class for Chaos 5 when it comes to solo. And he is this way because he doesn't have that much attack damage. And it's hard for Vollen to actually kill enemies. And his health regen can't really stack. You can't stack health regen, so he can't really sustain for too long. And so this makes Vollen a pretty tough player to play and a tough player to build. But I've managed to come up with a build that allowed me to beat one of the first Chaos 5 boss. And he's the first boss, the Unclean One. So we're going to go over what I used to beat this guy on Chaos 5. So first of all, we're going to jump into his God skill tree. And for his God skill tree, we spec the upper left side of this tree, and the reason we did that is because there's a lot of maximum health, there's a lot of armor, and there's a lot of block chance. So we want to be blocking more, we want to be more tanky, we want to have more armor. That's what we're speccing into Vollen. And so the passives that we got from this God skill tree starts with Sigmar's Blessing. And what this does is it increases your damage by 30%, and it increases your block chance by 20%, as well as energy regeneration. And this one works out for a long time, 14 seconds duration, and we really want that block chance. The second one is Blessed Bulwark, and what this does is it reduces your damage taken, but unfortunately it also increases your cooldown time. The other skill that we looked at speccing was the Divine Judgment, and what this does is it really helps more of your fragment farming or your explorations. It reduces the damage by 20% that you take from enemies, and it increases the damage that you deal to enemies by 20%, but only nearby enemies. So this may not be a passive for bosses per se, and we actually don't use it in this build for bosses, but it may be something that you'll switch out when you're playing with a lot more enemies. So jumping into Vollen's set for Chaos 5, we used the heroic set, the Skaven Killer. And the reason we use the Skaven Killer set is because it takes two of Vollen's skills that preferably we like, and it improves them, and it also no longer requires skill points to equip. And what this also does on the flip side is it allows us to spec every other skill for Vollen to the max. So with these two skills costing 0 and us equipping it, we can max out every other skill in this build. This set has a helmet, which is pretty awesome, and the eyes actually end up glowing green, which is pretty sick. And we have a chest plate, some gauntlets, we've got some pants for this guy, and we've got some boots. So that's the entire set. One of the most important things about this set is the Blade of Vengeance, and we use the Blade of Vengeance because it has a 10% damage increase that's stackable. And so what this blade does is every time we block, and if you remember we're speccing block from the passive tree, every time we block it gives us a stack of 10% damage over and over and over again. So every time we block it stores a charge, and it stacks and increases our damage by 10%. And if you look at Vollen right now, he's got 20,000 damage. And to tell you the truth, there's no way you're going to kill any Chaos 5 boss or even mobs with only 20,000 damage. I mean, that's going to be very difficult. So this is the sword we use to increase Vollen's damage while he's out there tanking and getting hit and blocking attacks, to over time increase his damage to where he can be effective. Jumping into his rings, Vollen has two rings. The first ring is the Signet Ring of Fortitude. And what happens with this ring is when you critical hit, it grants another damage reduction for 3 seconds. So this is another spot where we're reducing damage by 20%. The other ring that I equip, which I love these rings, I love it when set bonuses involve cooldown reduction, and that's exactly what this ring does. So when I critical hit with Vollen, it has a chance to reduce my cooldowns. The shield that I use for Vollen, it's a pretty good shield. You could probably switch this out with the Purvise of Anger and use his shield smash if you wanted to. I've gotten that one to do a lot of damage, but I use this one once again just to reiterate is that the counterattack damage is increased based on blocked damage. So when I'm blocking, the damage that goes out to enemies is increased based on my block damage. And as I said, you can probably pass this shield out for maybe the Aurora if you want to slow enemies, or maybe the Purvise of Anger if you want to use his archetype ability Shield Smash. With 100 stacks, I've gotten this Shield Smash to do well over 1 million. As far as his amulet goes, as far as Vollen's amulet goes, the Thrice Blessed Copper is what I use, and I use this for the critical strike chance. You could switch this out with something like the Sacred Fire Metal, which when you use a potion, it reduces all your current cooldowns, which is really nice. It allows you to use that RB. It allows you to use the Sigmar's Blessing, which gives you more block chance and more damage. So this is what I spec as far as equipment for Vollen. As far as his skills, we use the defensive strike skill. And the reason we use the defensive strike skill is because every time we're using this, we can stack block chance, which increases the amount of times we block, which once again increases our damage. Then we equip the Pistoler skill, in which the Skaven set kind of increases and modifies for us, and with this skill there's a 30% armor piercing, which is nice. And then we have the Justice of the Empire. We use this to strike the ground, slow enemies. Then we have the Banner of the Empire, and this is cool because it combines both banners. So with this, you get the counterattack damage, you get the damage increase, you get reduced cooldown time, reduced energy cost, and then reduced damage taken once again, 30% for 20 seconds. Then we have the passive that we spec'd on the God skill tree, and we've been over this one, 30% damage, 20% block chance. And then we have the Breakthrough the Ranks skill, and we use this just to get out of mobs, just to get away from enemies or whatever there is out there, to break through mobs and kind of our escape route. Looking at our passives, we spec'd the Indestructible. And the reason we spec this is because it increases our block chance, and then all of our damage is increased based off of that block chance, or our entire block chance. Then we spec the Wisdom of the Apothecary, and this is very crucial to Vollen's build, his survivability, because he will get hit and his health will be reduced. And what this does is it allows the potion cooldown time to be reduced by 30%. And also when you use a potion, it places an item on the ground that you can later pick up that also heals you. So it's like having a double potion that quite literally you can use it more often. So this really helps with his survivability, and this is really a must on bosses or even Chaos 5 mobs if you're even trying to solo them with Vollen, which honestly is very tough. We also use the Blessed Bulwark, and what this does is it's reduced damage taken, and the cooldown time is increased by 30%. Once again, as I said earlier, you could probably switch this out for Divine Judgment if you're playing Chaos 5 Expeditions or Relics with Vollen. That way the nearby enemies don't do as much damage to you. And so we're going to go ahead and equip this so we can go into an expedition and get stacks with Vollen. And so as you can see, 20,000 attack damage, 489,000 defense, and then we're going to run out here and get stacks with Vollen so you guys can see the difference.
Feel the wrath of my hell.
Alright guys, so we've reached full stacks with Vollen, and as you can see, Vollen's attack has skyrocketed to 184,000 damage, which isn't as much as other characters, but it's a significant increase, which helps us defeat bosses. It's the only way I can find to defeat bosses that are at Chaos 5 in this game, is to get these stacks. And so if we go and look at his actual skills now, his Pistoler Heroic skill does 712 base damage. And that's basically it, guys. His Justice of the Empire skill does 500,000 base, and then his Defensive Strike does 132,000. So this is the build that personally I would go to. Now, earlier I talked about using the Pavise of Anger shield, and the reason that I would use this possibly is because with this shield, your physical damage from your archetype skill does over 1,000,000 damage, physical damage base. So that's pretty interesting if you would like to play with that. But as you can see, once you get this skill, and you get the stacks maxed up with the Vengeance, the Sword of Vengeance, then you can use your Pistoler skill to do increased damage. So there's a 2 million right there. 1 million. Yep. So as you can see, you can do increased damage with the stacks, and this does help clear mobs. The only downside to this build is that the stacks do reset. If you do not block a hit within a certain period of time, the stacks reset. But even there, you know, even in a short period of time, you can gain up enough damage to be effective with Vollen.
Feel the wrath.
And so also with the banner down and the Sigmar spell from the God skill tree, my RB here, or the Sigmar's Blessing, when I use these two skills together, my defense goes up to 1.3 million. So when you use that, you have high defense, and then when you get your stacks up, you can do pretty hefty damage. So this is my build with Vollen. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I hope you like it. If you enjoyed this video and you like this build, please like and subscribe. We should have some boss fights on the channel if you're interested at looking at one of the Chaos 5 bosses I beat with Vollen. If this is the build and boss fight video, then just stay tuned, and the boss fight should be next. But thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you next time. Alright guys, here is the final boss fight I had Chaos 5 with Vollen against the Unclean One. And in this fight, mainly the tactics we used was building up our stacks with the minions and then trying to rush in and kill the boss with our increased damage. If you guys have any questions, let me know. I hope you enjoy this boss fight, and if you do have questions, comment below and please like and subscribe. We'll see you next time.